video going over the F80 brake install. That's front and back. The F80 was produced between 2014 and 2019. That's the M3. The F80 front caliper comes with four 40mm pistons. It is a two-piece floating design, and the beauty of that is you don't have to remove the caliper from the car to change out your brake pads. How you would go about doing that is just take a punch that fits and you knock out these two pins here and just swap out your brake pads. Quick and easy. So if you're a person that tracks your car, this would be, a real good advantage, and slightly cheaper than, going with a big brake kit like Stop Tech or Brembo, somebody like that. Now in the rear, you have two 44mm pistons, and it's the same floating design, same idea, two pins that hold the brake pads in, pop them out, pull your brake pads out. You don't have to take the caliper off the car. Another thing I wanted to bring up is for the rear kit on my car, it's for an M3 rear end. So if you have an M3 or you have knuckles from an M3 on your car for whatever reason, you would use just the spacer kit. But if you have on a regular 335, you have to buy, it's an actual bracket like the front brake caliper that you will bolt on, and then you'll be able to use the F80 rear brakes. So that's something to keep in mind when you're getting ready to order this kit, what it is you can and you can't use. So remember, if you don't have an M3, you'll have to get the mounting bracket for your rear end. Alright, if you want to take the pins out to get your brake pads out, basically what you need is a punch and a hammer. You don't necessarily need a hammer this big, but I don't have a regular size hammer in front of me right now, so it's what we're going to go with, damn it. So basically, to get the pins out, you stick the punch in there on the pin. Whack it until it goes all the way through. You'll see the pin, it's come out the other side. Now these things, they've been in here and they're a little bit crusty, and you might have to push down the retaining clip to get them to come all the way out. And as you see, it'll come out. As you can see, it's got all that crust and corrosion on there. I believe BMW wants you to replace these, but I have no idea how much they cost, but knowing BMW, probably a finger and a toenail. Alright, so first thing you want to do, this is the passenger side, front passenger side, obvious, of course, caliper. And the first thing you want to do is put this bracket on there so that you can mount it onto the hub. So as you see here, as it's shaped, you want this end to be on the up side of the caliper. So this is how the caliper will be sitting on the car. Of course, you'd have your bleed nipples at the top, and your bracket would go on right here like this. SLG, they provide bolts that go in there. It's these flush ones. Don't need a washer or anything. You just Make sure you have some red Loctite. Put a little on here. Run it through. And when you get it all the way down, it should be completely flush. These bolts, they accept an 8mm Allen or a 5/16. I don't know if you can see that in there. But as far as torque specs, couldn't really find any. I'm assuming the torque specs are as tight as you can get it. So since you're using Loctite, it's really not important. Just, you know, don't over tighten it to the point where you strip the face of the bolt and you can't get it on or off anymore. Alright, this is the driver's side knuckle here. Now to fit the F80 caliper on there, got the caliper, and you have the spacer plate. Spacer plate should go on like that. The only issue is that the main heat shield is in the way, and then there's a smaller heat shield that sits behind your e-brake shoes. And you've got to remove your e-brake shoes to get to it. Now, what I used was a pair of metal snips and a side grinder. If you've got something smaller like a Dremel tool, you might not have to remove the shoes to get in there. You could probably just stick it in there and grind back some. But basically, you want to have a clear shot at the two mounting holes. If I can, I'll post a link to a video that shows how to remove the shoes. I've already done it, so I'm not in no rush to go over and do it again. But it's not difficult, just as long as you take your time and use the right tools. Let me see if I can get in here and show you just how much I ground. Okay. Wasn't a whole lot, but as you can see, I had to take. You want to make sure however much you take back, make sure there's clearance for the shoe to go back and forth like it's supposed to. Not the cleanest job in the world, but gets it done. So once you've ground down enough room, once you've ground down enough of the heat shields, you've got your caliper and your spacer plate. 2 bolts, 19mm. Take your spacer plate, put it in place. Your caliper, it's going to take a little bit doing, so you might want to take. Alright, to mount the caliper on to the knuckle here, you need your plate. Plate goes on like this, and the caliper goes on in front of it. Let's see if I can scoot this back some. Got your 19mm bolt. Goes in through the back. You want to catch the plate first and then bolt it into the caliper. Same with the top. You do at the bottom. Stick it in through the bolt hole, catch the mounting plate, and then bolt it into the knuckle. Or into the caliper, I guess I should say. Through the knuckle, through the plate, through the caliper. And when you have it on there, it should look something like that. Of course, the brake rotor will be on there, but I just wanted to get a clear view of what it would look like for you guys. So once you get that on there, and of course the brake rotor will be on there, then you'd slide your brake pads in through the back, re-enter the 2 retaining clips or pins, and then you'd be ready to go. Now we're moved on to the front caliper, and I wanted to talk about an issue that I had been having with putting this whole kit together on the car. The issue is those clips that hold on to the brake lines, that metal piece there. Basically what is happening that the soft line and the hard line have been seized together. I had a bunch of that. So what did I end up having to do is taking some metal snips and basically cutting the metal bracket piece off and twisting the soft line away from the hard line. If you can, after you get it apart, you might be able to get it unseized. I wasn't able to do it in the rear. I haven't done it in the front yet, so I'll find out. But pretty much after you cut them off, I'll leave a link in the description where you can buy some more. So to basically show what I had to do, you have to come in here, some side snips, and basically cut this thing out. And you tear it up enough. There you have it. Now to get the hose out the rest of the way, there's a retaining clip here and a rubber grommet that holds it in place. Just take your screwdriver, stick it in there, turn it sideways, and it should start to come up. Keep prying it up till it comes all the way out. Might need more than one screwdriver. Now you can take the hose out. Alright, now you can take the soft line out of the brake caliper. It's a 14 mil. that you got the caliper off, since both of my lines are seized, pretty much have to take the caliper off of the soft line like this, spinning it until it comes off. Make sure you got something to catch that brake fluid. Make sure you don't get any brake fluid on the paint, because it'll ruin it. Once you get it off from there, then you can come to the other side over here. And screw it away from the hard line. There you go. Now this is primarily if you're putting stainless steel lines on there and your hard lines happen to be seized. But if you're just gonna swap the caliper and keep your same soft lines, all you have to do is just unscrew the line from the caliper. All right, after you get the caliper off, you want to take the caliper bracket off, and that's a 16 mil. Take these old bolts and chuck them because you don't need them. The kit comes with new bolts. Once you get the bracket off, then you want to take old rotors off. Hopefully by now you already have rotors that are for the F80. I'll make sure I put part numbers down in the description. Once you get this exposed, you want to do like you did in the rear and see how much of the heat shield you have to take off. I haven't done it yet, so you're pretty much finding out at the same time that I do, but as far as what I could see is see the top pretty much lines up fine, and it's the bottom you have to cut into the heat shield. Looks like right about here, so I would come in and cut straight down. Might be able to cut, might need to cut over a little bit more, but basically it's just, you know, test fit, cut, test fit, cut until you get it in there like you need it to be. Now take your metal cutters. Made my first cut. Come back with the bracket. Bolts that come in the kit are 17 millimeter. So all right, so once you've cut enough to get on there, what I had to do was take the small bolt that holds the heat shield on at the bottom, take it off, and then trim until it'll fit on there exactly. And then I had to unbolt at the bottom, slide it out, put the bolt back in, and now everything is on. So once you get to this point, you test fitted it without your brake rotor on there. Now you want to go back, take the caliper back off, put the brake rotor on there, and make sure everything stays lined up and everything fits like it's supposed to. Now to fit the rotors on there, it comes with a caliper retaining bolt. The kit does. Instead of a 6 millimeter that you would use standard, you got to go down to a 5 millimeter hex. And fit everything in there. After you get the rotor in place, next thing you want to do is go back with the caliper and make sure everything lines up like it's supposed to. And when you're done, it should look something like that. Well, you're not done. You still got to put your brake pads in there, but basically you want to make sure it's on there. Make sure that the caliper can still move around. Alright, so last part of this video I'm going to do is completely optional. It's more of a cosmetic type of deal, and it is painting your calipers. I bought these. It came from a junkyard out in like Arizona, I believe. So, you know, they're a little faded, a little scuffed up. Can't even see the M anymore pretty much. So I figured I'd go ahead and paint them so that they look nice behind the wheels. So first thing you want to do when you get it is disassemble it. Take all the brake pads, pins, and everything else out. Once you do that, you want to clean it off real good, get as much dirt, grit, and grime off there. You might even want to go over it with some sandpaper. Not enough to, you know, scuff the shit out of it, but enough to make sure that the surface is smooth and clean. After you clean it, you want to go with your painter's tape and go over the important areas you don't want getting paint on it, namely being your pistons and your bleed nipples. So I'm doing that now. Just take the tape, put it over the pistons. All right, when you get done with the taping, it should look something like this. Make sure the tape isn't touching any areas that you want to get painted, like along the tops or the sides here. Make sure you put tape around the bleed nipples. These have 2, so make sure you get both of them. And now, once you're sure it's clean and taped up, you're ready for your first coat of primer. All right, what I did is put the primer in a glass of hot water. The idea behind that is to raise the pressure in here so that you can get a good spray. Ideally, you want to do this somewhere well ventilated, you know, unless you want to get high off the paint smell. But so I want to let y'all know right now, I'm a little bit ghetto, so I'm only doing the side of the caliper that can be seen. Unless somebody's up under your car looking to see if your calipers are fully painted. It's really no reason to waste, you know, your painting the whole caliper, and you can only see 50% of the damn thing. So just go across it. Make sure you shake the can well before you start. Probably should have did this like a minute or so before I started this. Go across it. Make sure you get a nice. Now don't worry about getting it perfect the first time through. We're gonna do this about 3 times. Come on the other side. Get as much as that side you can. And once you get that first primer coat in, it should look something like that. Let it dry for about 15-20 minutes. Come back, do about do another coat, and wait another 15-20 minutes, and then do that last coat. And then we'll move on to color. All right, when you get done with the primer, this is pretty much what it should look like. Now you want to move on to color. Now the difference with your paint is it takes a lot longer to dry and cure. So when you do your first coat, give it about an hour or so to let it dry, and then come back and do about 3 coats on it. So, all right, as you can see, the final coat went on. If you're going to put a vinyl on your decal or whatever on your calipers, this is the time to do it. The final coat will be the clear coat. And make sure you seals everything and help keep your stickers on. Now if you get vinyls, make sure they're high temp ones that won't bubble up and burn off. Brake calipers reach a high temperature, but make sure you put these on there before you do the clear coat. Alright, so I think I'm gonna end the video off here. Few issues I'm having right now is the thing about the F80 brake kit. Only certain 18-inch wheels will allow you to fit them over the brake caliper. I'm using E46 M3 wheels, which are 18, but the actual barrel size won't allow me to fit over the caliper, so I'm probably gonna have to go up to 19-inch wheels, or if you know specifically of some 18-inch wheels that'll fit over the calipers, you can use those also. But since I don't feel like going back and forth playing the game around with what 18-inch wheel will fit, more than likely I'll just have to go ahead and go up to a 19. So pretty much where my car is at, I can't leave it sitting on jack stands for a extended amount of time. Basically because since it's not really the new year, but our J code certification is up, so they could show up at any time and go over the office. So I don't want my car sitting here on jack stands and brake fluid everywhere, and these people come in here and they start throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines at us. So I'm kind of stuck until those guys come and do their thing, and then after they recertify us and tell us that we're not about to blow the building up, then I can do stuff like I want to do it. But until that happens, I'm kind of stuck a little bit. So I'll probably be ordering some new wheels within the next week or so, and then the brake calipers, everything will be going on the brakes, and then I'll be swapping out the master cylinder. That's something I wanted to make a video over, but there's no point in me putting a new master cylinder on there and all the fluid will just leak right back out of it. So I guess I'll just end this video here. Want to give a shout out to Seems Legit Garage. Thank you for sending me the kit or whatever. I paid for it. I'm not sponsored by these guys, even though they got a considerable amount of my money. But if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, holla at me. That shit is impossible to get it. China or anybody to try to get it. Motherfucker, Obama, somebody would.